rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
We got a producer. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Aurora.
All right, Jenettesplaining part 3. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora.
And we are so excited to announce that, we were a little bit late getting started today, but we are bringing you a new and improved Good Morning Aurora live experience.
That's right, brand new, something definitely different, and something new going forward. So this is Jenettesplaining part 3, y'all.
Part 3.
It's
like it's officially a series now.
It definitely is. It's a series, it's a thing, and this is fun. This is a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun talking to you guys. You are tuning in to the GAMS, the Great American Morning Show. I am your host, Curtis, and I have Jeanette.
Hi.
The star and namesake of Jenettesplaining, and we got BTP. That's our producer, BT Pizzle. Brent, the producer. That's right, BT Pizzle.
We're working on. We've got some working titles for his official title.
Got to work that name out. When I said that, you guys did not see the disconcerting look on his face at hearing BTP. All right, so we got a lot of news, a lot of stuff to talk about, you guys.
News.
So much. First things first. Good morning to all of you. It is 8:37 a.m. and it's Friday, the 26th of March. Welcome, wake up, get your coffee ready. First things first, where we at, Jeanette?
I think the first thing we're talking about is how maybe we're not going to be poisoned by lead anymore.
And maybe. I like the maybe.
Isn't that great, though? Like, hey, there's a chance that we won't be poisoned by lead in our drinking water anymore.
Right.
Now, all right, so the basic overall of this news, which has already been covered, I think, on this show this week, is that there is a bill moving through Springfield, and it would pay for, it creates an ongoing mechanism to pay for lead service line replacements across the state of Illinois. And your lead service line is this piece of pipe that goes from, so like the cities across the country have already replaced most of their like lead that is anywhere in the whole network of pipes that brings water from wherever it pulls the water from to your neighborhood.
Right.
But the lead service line is this line that is on your property, homeowner or renter, and goes from the main pipe out on the street into your house, right? That is your lead service line. And they're not all lead. The old ones are lead. And because Aurora is an older city, it has an awful lot of them, like 20,000 of them still. And the older part of town that you live in, the more likely it is that you have one of these things. So even though there's not lead in the rest of the system, and even though all of the water gets filtered before it gets to Aurora's water treatment plant, once it comes from the water treatment plant and goes out to your neighborhood and then into your house, it is moving through lead pipes. So it's just really expensive to replace all those, and they have to go onto public property and all that. So the city of Aurora has long had a program, or for a little while anyway, where it would like split the cost with homeowners, and you could take out a loan and all this. But that's still really expensive because it can cost like $5-10 grand to replace one of these things, and so then homeowners would be on the hook for this.
Right.
This new legislation makes it basically adds a small tax onto everybody's water bill, like across the state, and then creates an ongoing fund to pay to get all of these replaced. This is great. It's social justice through infrastructure, and that's why I'm so excited about it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Social justice through infrastructure.
Because do you know who lives in really old neighborhoods? Poor people. Disproportionately, it's poor people of color who cannot afford to like pay $5 or $10 grand to get some pipe to their house, right? Changed out. So this is great. Of course, this is in the Labor and something or other committee.
Right now, it's the Labor and Commerce Committee, and it's known as HB 3739.
Yes, so HB 3739, the Labor and Commerce Committee, we have nobody from the Aurora area on Labor and Commerce, so if we did, I would be like, hey, call this person right now. But we don't have that.
Right.
So you can still call your local person who is your representative in Springfield, right? But they don't have as much sway over that committee right now. Luckily, there are lots of Democrats from Chicago who are on that committee, and aside from Aurora, Chicago is the other city that is most impacted by this because they have the oldest pipes. So I'm really, really hopeful for this. I don't know if it'll get anywhere, or if people will decide that they really don't want to pay in for everybody to not die of lead poisoning. But I'm excited for it.
Again, you guys, that's HB 3739, known as the Lead Service Line Replacement and Notification Act, winding its way through the legislative process. According to the Metropolitan Planning Council, a regional planning agency based in Chicago, the bill would create, quote, a feasible and equitable plan, funding, and timeline for Illinois water utilities to identify and replace all lead service lines, the most effective way to eliminate toxic lead in drinking water.
Yeah, so right now what happens is, like, if the city is working in your area and they've got to rip out and replace pipes anyway, they'll approach you and say, like, hey, we'll rip out your lead service line, but you gotta pay, and then you have options. So, but that's very slow, and it depends on the pace of updating infrastructure throughout the area. This would accelerate that timeline, make it free for residents who already live in, disproportionately poor areas, which is amazing.
That is amazing.
One thing I want to add to this discussion is that in the meantime, if you live in an old neighborhood and you do not have a filter, like a water filter on your tap, and you drink the tap water, you should probably have a water filter on there. Like, you can go to the Home Depot, you can buy yourself, like, a Brita filtery thingy. You don't have to drink tap water or bottled water. Right. Because Aurora has amazing water, actually. Our treatment is great. It's just that last little bit where the water is moving through the lead pipe, that especially if you have young kids in the house, like babies and stuff, it's always a good idea to just add a little extra filter right to your sink. Right. So you get the ones that go under the sink. And then you never see them. You can get the one that just screws on. If you're a renter and you don't know how to mess with your own plumbing, like, get the little one that just kind of screws onto your faucet, and you're good. Just make sure to replace the filters.
The little R2D2 looking joint.
Right. Yeah. So we have one in our house because we live in a really, really, really old house.
Very cool. Yep. Very cool. So this we'll post this link for you guys to check out at your leisure after the show. Please familiarize yourself with this. It's very important.
Yeah, and then spend this weekend, make your little trip to the Home Depot and get yourself a filter.
Get yourself a filter. Now we got more water.
We have more water stories.
We got more water
you guys,
stories
it's all water
to talk about.
Splish
splash, we was taking a
Okay, finally I get a music reference that you make. So
right. Oh yeah. Because Jenettesplaining, although it is the hippest new portion of news ever to make its way to the land, the star of Jenettesplaining is chronically behind the times with any cultural reference. It's quite amazing.
I have my areas of expertise, and they're mostly related to geeky infrastructure things, so it's fine.
Word up.
So our follow-up story on what's happening with your water.
Yes.
And maybe this should have gone first to add even more context, but Montgomery is thinking about buying Aurora's water. This could be nice. So because if we do it right, maybe it'll be a little extra revenue stream for the city's water service.
Right.
But just to add a little bit of background, so all of your water, Aurora resident, comes from basically two sources. So the city of Aurora has this big water treatment plant on Route 25. You pass it, there's usually geese hanging out there. And your water comes to that plant from either the Fox River or from the Ordovician Cambian Aquifer. So it's an aquifer is basically like an underground lake.
Right.
That's how you can think about it.
Right.
And a lot of Chicagoland, especially the western suburbs, gets their water from the aquifer, and that aquifer is running out of water. So the Illinois State Geologic Survey has told us that we are pulling more water out of it than it is naturally replenishing.
Right.
That's an educated guess because we can't just go down there. Like, we're taking measurements, but it's
an educated guess on their part.
But yeah, it's a pretty good, pretty educated guess.
Yeah, they sound educated.
Right, but like when it comes to measuring underground lakes, it's just a really tricky science.
Right.
So, but all estimates point to we are running out of water in that aquifer at some point in the future. So, Aurora is super well positioned because we can also pull water from the Fox River. And every year we kind of do this switch over based on what's happening in the water supply. So, in the summer, we tend to get algae blooms on the Fox River.
Yeah. And
so they switch over and pull, like they're always pulling a percent from the Fox River and a percentage from the aquifers.
Right.
And they can switch it so that it doesn't taste as like green and algae-ish.
Right.
And they do that every spring / summer to like move it back and forth. But our friends to the south, none of them are able to pull from the Fox River. So Montgomery, Oswego, Yorkville, all the way out to Joliet, Plainfield, like that whole region, they are pulling from the aquifer almost exclusively right now, which is a real big problem for them because if that thing runs out of water, then they're basically screwed.
Right.
So all of these towns are looking for different sources for how are we going to secure water, and they are looking at Lake Michigan as a possibility, and like having pipes that go all the way to from DuPage County or straight from the lake down to Joliet, and like how do we distribute those and build all these pipes to make that happen. But Montgomery, because they're so close to us, they're like, wait a minute, what if we just ask Aurora for some water?
Right, yeah, yeah. Work smarter, not harder.
Right. So everybody's doing a million studies right now to figure out like what the best, cheapest long-term solution is for them. Currently, North Aurora buys their water from the city of Aurora. So we could set up something similar. And I think it would be great if they just bought our water and paid a markup for it, because why not, and kind of contribute to the long-term sustainability of our water. And it would still be cheaper probably for them to do that than for them to build a new plant or to pipe in from like DuPage County or Joliet or from Lake Michigan themselves. Yeah.
Shouts out to the city of Montgomery.
Village
of Montgomery.
Montgomery is a village.
For thinking, a little bit ahead of the game, thinking about a local solution as opposed to a big government-y routed from here thing.
Well, so I would say that all of the municipalities right now are investigating many options. So I think that, and I don't want to advocate for any one thing, because it's possible that Montgomery would also tack on to the other communities south of there, and that might be the cheaper solution for them too, right? So they might, for a while, Yorkville, Montgomery, Oswego were all working on plans and studies together to see what their options might be. It's trickier for Montgomery because they're so small that I think they feel like they won't have as much of a voice if they try to get Lake Michigan water. Like they won't be able to go complain to the city of Chicago and say like, hey, what about us?
Yeah. Can we get some love?
Yeah. So it's a whole regional issue, and I think all of the cities in the area are starting to recognize that it needs a regional solution as opposed to every community for themselves sort of thing.
If you're just tuning in, you are listening to Jenettesplaining on Good Morning Aurora. It is Friday the 26th, 8:49 a.m. And we are talking about water.
We're talking about water.
Yep.
All of the many options.
All right. So Montgomery is potentially going to buy Aurora's water. We've got lead service that we just talked about, the new bill in Springfield. Now, in addition to all of that, we have greenhouse. Is that what I saw?
We want to talk about greenhouses?
Yeah. Let's continue with the nature.
Let's keep going. Yeah, nature, water,
Nature's good.
Water, flowers. These are all things I really like.
Yes, but there's a lack of master planning.
Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what I also really like is when communities think far ahead for their needs.
Right, as opposed to at the end of the last minute kind of thing.
Yeah. And maybe people were thinking really far ahead about their needs for a greenhouse. But the news that came out recently is that the city is kind of attempting to buy a greenhouse that would go in downtown Aurora and stick it sort of down by the ComEd property, which is sort of at the south end of. It's not on the island. It's like that gravel lot behind the PNC Bank like back. It would go back there, and I love greenhouses so much that I think I want something better for our downtown than just a place that builds plant or like houses baby plants.
Right.
Like you could do something so cool with an indoor greenhouse space. Let's go to the story a little bit.
Yeah, Jason Bauer, deputy city engineer, said the city was considering the downtown greenhouse to grow annuals normally planted and hanging baskets, planters, the green wall on the Water Street Mall, and everything done by downtown services. We buy them from a local nursery right now, but it would be a substantial savings if we could start them on our own.
I mean, agreed, right? I grow things in my basement all the time. Tomatoes, mostly.
You grow tomatoes in your basement?
Yeah, well, I start
Aren't they supposed to be grown out?
Well, I start them in the basement, or at least I used to. So when I ran a community garden, God help me, never start a community... I mean, start a community garden if you're a good person and want to lose every weekend of your summer. But I start with... and I don't want to take all the credit. Me and many partners started a community garden on the Near East Side of Aurora several years ago at the corner of Claim and Union Street, if you're familiar. It's now the one that that keeps getting run into because it's now become an LGBTQ safe space, and so people have decided that they should trash it because of that. Which
Can
is
we
really
pause real quick? Let's pause because now I live in that neighborhood.
Okay, all right.
Let's just real quick. Imagine being so upset, mad, and distraught over people having a safe space to sit and talk LGBTQ is that you get in your truck and you drive over the whole shit, you rev your tires in the
over the curb.
What kind of human?
It's a real bummer. And I mean, what's really unfortunate is that garden space, it doesn't look like a whole lot, right? It looks like a shed, and usually it's a little weedy, and there was a little picket fence on the corner. But man, so many people put in so much time and effort to find the funding for that, to like get the shed and the materials. And so many people have put in time to like build things on that site and to dig the soil up for us and to like plant and weed every summer. And the way that it used to work was it was sort of a pick a weed, take a tomato sort of system. So really an honor-based kind of like everybody in the neighborhood can pitch in and everybody in the neighborhood can benefit sort of thing.
Right.
And so, aside from just the blatant homophobia of, running through a picket fence because it's rainbow colored, like,
right?
Don't you have anything better to do with your time, buddy? it's just a real loss for the community who has built a thing, and to see it to see other people in the community just tear it down.
Right.
That was heartbreaking. We got really off topic.
We did.
Point is,
no, we're back on the top. We didn't go that far away.
And it's an excellent topic to discuss further.
I'm the guy who plants the flag. I'll remove the flag and let's go back to what we were talking about.
Anyway, so I used to plant, when we started that garden, I would plant hundreds and hundreds of seeds in a little mini grow house in my basement. Peppers and tomatoes and all the things, because it is an awful lot cheaper to start things from seed yourself and just water them, keep an eye on them for a few months before rather than going to the garden center and buying them all just from the Home Depot, or the Ace or whatever.
We're live on the gram too, y'all. Good morning on the gram.
Good morning. Instagram, the Instagram that I almost never use.
Yeah, the I jizzle. Where?
The chat on your Facebook.
Oh, word up. Yeah, chat.
Thank you, producer.
Yeah, see that.
Our producer is chiming in and letting us
BTP,
know
BT Pizzle. What up?
We've got people to talk to on the chat. The so having 100% for a greenhouse, what I'm a little bit concerned by is that it seems to be kind of like coming out of nowhere. They got bids, but then they only got one bid, and then that bid was non-compliant, which means that for some reason they weren't able to, they were either charging way too much, or they
for
weren't
plants
for the greenhouse
itself.
the
greenhouse, okay.
Yeah, to build the greenhouse. And then the city's chief financial officer, in this excellent story I'm reading from the Beacon News this week, said that it's a $30,000 project that is unplanned and that the city is cobbling together. And I'm kind of like, why are we building a greenhouse that is unplanned and cobbling it together, when what we could be building is like an awesome looking botanical garden thing that goes in the long-term capital plan that gives people a space to go and enjoy nature in the winter months, and also grows all the annuals for downtown. It's kind of one of those things, like, if you're gonna build it, like, build it right, and make it a part of your long-term strategy, rather than kind of like, crap. It's sort of like building a shed in your backyard because that's what you can afford today, when what you really need is a garage.
Buenos dias to our friends, Noelia Ruiz of the Wabanzi SBDC, Small Business Development Center. Karina LaFontaine, good morning to you. And Cindy Ben, shouts out.
Good morning.
All right.
Yeah, so I would really, really, really like to see a greenhouse.
Strawberry barbecue.
That is, I am pro greenhouse. I am just also really pro,
I'm pro nature. I'm pro anything that makes and beautifies.
Y'all, we live in Illinois, and winters here are a chore. And
right.
I'm like, what a draw it would be to have a space to go in the winter and not feel miserable for like a day.
No, yeah, that would be awesome.
And be around some plants.
Right. All right. Good morning to you guys. If you're just checking in, we appreciate all of you guys. You are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. And this is Jenettesplaining Part 3, where we take the minutia of city government and we make it fun. You will want to listen to all of the minutes of any boring city council meeting after this show.
Oh, yeah, my goodness.
We can guarantee that. Ben, good morning to you. Sounds like a perfect project to partner with We Grow Dreams, developmental disabilities employer, Nursery and Fox Valley Special Recreation Association. Shouts out, my brother. Shouts out. Jean Lynn, good morning to you too, sister.
And that's the other thing too, right? Like, there are so many ways that you could partner.
Right.
I mean, it could be a partnership with the park district to actually make it a park, right? Like an indoor park facility. It could be a partnership with lots and lots of different organizations. It could be a partnership with the schools, because the schools don't have greenhouses. Like, I used to, at least West Aurora didn't when I was there not that long ago.
Right.
Just a little time ago, right? Like, I can't imagine that East does, maybe. But lots of schools do have horticultural greenhouses for kids to learn about plants and biology. Like, that could be a cool partnership. You
Hell
could do
yeah.
lots of interesting things with a greenhouse. And I guess I just want to ask, I want to ask our leaders to think about, like, long-term strategic planning when it comes to capital purchases.
Right.
Because usually the way that these work is a city has a capital improvement plan, and it says, like, all right, we're going to need new roads in this part of town by this year, and we're going to need to resurface these roads sooner, and we're going to need to build a new facility for public works in this year, and we're going, and it plans them out well in advance so that they're always kind of saving and have that money available when those big projects come forth.
Do cities typically plan ahead? Is that something that
They do typically. Yes.
But they just didn't this time. Okay.
A long time. I mean, maybe. Look,
Right.
I feel like we don't have, I have not been watching the inner workings of this, but it kind of seemed to come up out of nowhere. And even in the reporting on it, it said, like, oh yeah, this wasn't a planned expense, but like, let's find $30,000 for a greenhouse. And I'm saying, let's find $100,000 and make it cool. Like,
So we got a comment from one of our awesome friends, Spunky Mare Designs. I have to say, made a Good Morning Aurora beer glass.
Ooh.
And we did a wonderful interview with her and a gentleman by the name of Vincent Green, which is on our Spotify and our YouTube as well. But she says, do a worker share for volunteers for the local garden. That's pretty damn cool. Damn cool.
Yes. Yeah, it's also a lot of work. I
Right.
really want to encourage anyone who's interested in starting a community garden this year to hit me up on the social media, and I'll give you all kinds of information.
Yeah.
I'm on the gram at Jeanette Sturgis. I'm on the Facebook, also by my name, and we'll talk. Like, if anyone has thought, like, oh yeah, I would like to do a garden,
Right.
I will try to not scare you out of it.
So gardens are fun. They are a lot of fun. So, and I garden too. Now I have a great big backyard and a side yard. I got flowers and all kinds of nice stuff. Thinking about putting some veggies out there.
Yeah.
So if any of you guys are interested and want to collaborate,
You need gardening tips.
You need some gardening tips?
Seed exchange.
right, holler at us. Hit us on the
Yeah.
DMs. We're all over the place. The gram, all that.
We
all
just
that.
became the Good Morning Aurora gardening show. You could do.
Ooh.
You could do entire podcasts about growing stuff,
Oh, snap.
mostly legal things.
Well, everything's legal now.
Most things are legal.
Most things are legal. Most things are legal. And let's change the subject. All right. So, now let's see here. Before we get into the educational piece of our wonderful discussion, do we want to talk about the local consternation over Farnsworth and Molitor? There's a gas station or something.
You want to talk
Was
about
there
the
a
gas
station? Shouts out to Prophetic Things, Strawberries Barbecue. What up, baby? Good morning to all of y'all. McCarty Mills. Shouts out. Yeah, let's do that.
Shouts out to McCarty Mills for getting me
Shouts
exceptionally drunk on Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much for that.
Holla.
They've got a delightful stout now that tastes like banana bread and is like 11% by volume.
Word
And
up.
oh man, that was a good afternoon.
Yeah, if you guys are hip, you might want to hang out.
Go check 'em out.
You might run into your favorite radio host down there.
That's
You
true.
might
That's
see
true.
us.
We're borderline alcoholics. That's not true.
That's not true.
We just enjoy the good craft beers.
Liquid love.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about the gas station. The intersection of Farnsworth and Molitor, for those who are not familiar with the Near East Side, is where you get off the tollway at Farnsworth. It's that first intersection headed south. You'll be like, there's already 2 gas stations there.
Right.
The plan is to build a new gas station with a mini mart and then tear down one of the other gas stations. That's the proposed plan.
Right.
The neighbors are kind of up in arms about it because it would go on that corner that currently has nothing, and that corner that currently has nothing backs up onto some residential properties. Here's the thing. Those residential properties are not, most of them, part of the city. So there are, yes. Yes, they are unincorporated.
Mm.
Not all of them. There are some that are incorporated. But let's talk for a second here about what being unincorporated means. Aurora is real funky, you see, because...
Funky like music?
Yes, funky in all the ways that I am not in any way. We're an incorporated city, but there are pockets throughout the city that are not incorporated, which just means that they never became a part of the city. It means that they don't get city services like water or a right to check out books at the library.
Damn, that's...
I know, but it's because they don't pay taxes.
Right.
So everybody thinks that just being in an area entitles you to services, and that's not true. Paying taxes is what entitles you to the services that those taxes pay for.
Ah.
So, yeah. So we're putting in this. They're considering rezoning this piece of property that is in the city of Aurora's city limits.
Right.
And putting a gas station there. And the neighbors who are not in the city limits are saying, well, we don't want a gas station there because we don't want a gas station next to us, which who does? I get that. But also, like, we've got wells. What if the gas station contaminates the wells? To which I say, why do you have wells in the middle of a massive city that has, by the way, the best tasting drinking water in the state, like, several years running?
Word.
Like, it always wins that taste test.
Right.
And it, like, incorporating into the city actually gives you a say in what happens in your city. Because as, we're listening to these folks who are unincorporated complain about this, and that's a good thing to do, but when it comes down to it, like, these are people who are not contributing to this, how the city is run.
Right.
By paying taxes to it. So they want something for free. They want planning services. They want flood control, planning and
right.
engineering. But they're not paying for those. The rest of us are.
They want it for free? No.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Right? So, also, like, can we just talk about wells in the modern era? Like, wells in the middle of... Because they're surrounded by development, right?
Right.
If you live in the middle of nowhere and you have a well, okay, I guess. But, like, if you have a well in it, you are surrounded by things like gas stations, because the other ones are not that far away, or you're, by major roadways and things. There's so many things that can contaminate a well if you're in a really developed area, like, and you've got to get that stuff tested every year, and you got to maintain, and like, some people, like, their well access will be, like, in their neighbor's basement and stuff like that, so they can't even access their own water supply. It's not great.
Right. It's not like we're not talking like Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
Where the well's all cool and the shit is...
Although,
right.
even then, Illinois has this thing called radium, which is like a radioactive substance, like you might think, and it contaminates groundwater like all the time. It's, and cities across the area have in their water treatment infrastructure ways of pulling the radium out of the water before you drink it.
Right.
So, along with many other contaminants. And then they treat the water so that when it comes to your house, it doesn't have those contaminants in it anymore. So I would really...
You're not a fan. You're not a fan.
I'm not a super big fan of the fact that we still have all of these unincorporated areas smack in the middle of the city. The other thing that happens as a result of all these little unincorporated pockets is, let's say that my home is incorporated to the city. I pay taxes to the city, and I have to do things like keep my property in good shape, right? I got to keep the lawn trimmed because otherwise the city will be like, will send me a fine. I got to keep garbage and junk out of my yard. Like, I can't have a broke down car in my front yard because I live in the city.
Right.
If you live in an unincorporated property, you can have grass as tall as you want.
Mokerville.
And have your broke down, rusted out car as a lawn ornament.
Shit
right?
looking like Compton.
I'm like, and I'm sort of like, let me do whatever I want with my property. And I really understand people who want to be left alone to do whatever they want with their property. But also, like, if you put an awful lot of effort into your property and your neighbor doesn't, and it looks like garbage, like, it kind of just brings down the vibe of a neighborhood.
That's whack. All right, so real quick, couple comments. I had well water when I was younger. It was awful. We had to buy bottled or gallon jugs for drinking water. Yep. Whoever this person was sounds like they grew up in absolute squalor and poverty. Good morning. If you just joining us on the gram, we on the gram too. DJ Venom, what up, baby? Kenzie, what up? Everybody out there. Strawberries Barbecue, shouts out. McCarty Mill, Devin. So many of y'all people. Compton, we in the house, baby. This is not Compton, or there's a Compton, Illinois, and this is not that. We are coming to you live from the second largest cities. Well, we're the second largest cities for Daily News podcast. But we are coming to you live from the second largest city in the beating heart of downtown Aurora. Indeed, the left ventricle. Also, wells, radium, lead pipes. Oh my, Ben, you are correct, my brother. You are correct. Because one thing that we do need, you know, we talk about sustainability, we talk about the health that comes from vegetables and gardens. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't need to be drinking water, which could turn you into Incredible Hulk. So keeping contaminants out of water it's important, and it's one of the reasons that we have government. Right? To provide services that benefit everybody. If you're just tuning in, it's 911 911. Someone please call 911.
Nope.
Y'all don't? Okay.
No. So the other thing that happens, you know, as a result of these little pockets of unincorporated areas, like what we're seeing out at the Farnsworth and Molitor intersection, is that long-range planning becomes really difficult. Like, you want to, so one issue they have out there in that area, in most of that first ward area, is flooding. There's lots of flooding issues out there. Do you know what controls flooding? Having flood control plans in place. You know what makes it really hard to be able to develop those plans and implement solutions that control flooding? Not having unincorporated properties over which we have no control and are not able to put certain infrastructure in place.
Right.
So it's a real big challenge. If I were the emperor of the world, I would, you know, probably wave my magic wand and force people to incorporate and pay taxes and get water, drinking water, and library cards.
I would, you know what? I would do the same thing. If I had a magic, I would make it bing. Yes. Everybody gets a library card.
Everybody gets a, yeah.
Definitely.
Bonus. Yeah. And, you know, I have worked many a time answering phones as a good government bureaucrat. And people have asked me, like, hey, why is the library charging me hundreds of dollars to get a library card? And I'm like, well, that's because you're unincorporated and you don't, like, if you were paying taxes to the city, you would get your library card for free as a part of that.
Right.
You know, I've also had, well, why isn't the city picking up my brush or, you know, taking care of my garbage? Well, because you're not a part of the city. You think you are because your address says Aurora.
Ooh.
I'm not being salty about it. That came off sounding really salty. But
that was.
No, but the fact of the matter is, it gets really, and that's the thing is you can't because you're not a part of the city.
Drops the mic. Don't drop this one, but drops the mic.
So like a lot of people in this area don't know where they live, which is just which just speaks to how Byzantine and like non-transparent and just confusing. Like local government can be confusing sometimes.
It definitely is.
So you know, because your address will say Aurora because you're serviced by the Aurora post office, but that doesn't mean that you're actually a tax-paying resident of Aurora. You could be in an unincorporated area and have no idea where you actually live. I had one friend who lived in gosh, just down in this like no man's land off of Normantown Road, like, and she was,
by the train tracks down there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and nobody down there knows where they live.
Yeah.
Because she's right by the Naperville, like her address said Naperville,
Right.
and because she was served by the Naperville post office, so she goes to the Naperville library and is like, hey, can I check out books? And they're like, no, because you need an Aurora library card. And she's like, what do you mean I need an Aurora library card? I live in Naperville. And it turned out she actually lived in Aurora. Like her landlord was a tax-paying resident of Aurora. She got Aurora water. Like she voted. She could vote for Aurora's mayor, right? Like she was a resident of Aurora,
Right.
but her address said Naperville. So she's like, you're telling me that even though on my driver's license it says Naperville and my mail goes to Naperville, that I have to go to Aurora, get a library card so that I can then go check out books in Naperville because they have an interlibrary system. Like it's insane that people don't know where they live.
Grew up drinking well water on my grandmother's farm, and now I live in the Bahamas. Have been drinking rainwater stored in our cistern for 46 years. Water is put through a filter. That's a comment from one of our wonderful listeners, Kay Collins Roberts. I like how she dropped in. She lives in the Bahamas.
First of all, Kay, how jealous are we all of you in this moment?
Seriously.
Second of all, maybe that's our solution. Maybe we put in the gas station, and if you're worried about your water in the unincorporated areas, you just put a rainwater cistern.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, collect the water off your roof.
Right.
Get you a rain barrel. I guess that's fine.
Good morning to Perry Slade, talented photographer, big friend of the show. Shouts out P.S. Slade Images. He will also be at...
He's at Art and Market, yeah?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, real quick, local updates.
Let's do them.
April 2nd is First Friday. That's the return of First Fridays.
Woo!
Yes.
I don't want to scream into the mic, but I'm really happy
Right,
about
word
this.
up, yeah. At the Aurora Public Library, Perry Slade, wonderful photographer, talented photographer who has work at the Aurora Historical Society down here on Downer. He will be having an exhibit at the Aurora Public Library.
Fabulous.
And there will also be live music by Dave Ramont. Across the street from the Aurora Public Library, as many of you may know, is...
Society 57, which will be open all evening.
Well, what else is across from...
From the library,
Yeah.
Also McCarty Mills.
McCarty Mills.
Yeah. So you know what block the host will be of this podcast will be on.
Yeah. We'll be there. Shouts out. Our good friend Devin. Devin is an artist. She will be there also. From 5 to 10 p.m. She has an original art showcase and pop-up that's happening there. McCarty Mills has craft beer, art. It's a great place. Shouts out.
Yeah, beware of the banana bread flavored stout. It's so... I don't know. I don't know if they're having it this week. Thank you, producer Brent.
Yeah, word up.
But it's so good, but so dangerous. Also, just in general, to get your full schedule of everything that is happening on First Fridays, check out Aurora Downtown's website. Just Google, just get on the Google Aurora Downtown. The First Fridays.
AuroraDowntown.org.
There it is.
/calendar.
I didn't want to say com or something. I wasn't sure which one it was, or if it was downtown or Aurora Downtown. Go look at the calendar. There will be all sorts of cool stuff. Get outside. Wear your mask. Try to not breathe on people. It'll be a good time.
Right.
So exciting.
Okay. So we got some education stuff to talk to you guys about. There is a cover. Oh.
There's no cover up.
There is no cover.
Maybe there's a cover up.
I mean, I don't. What could they be covering, right?
Okay. So
what exactly is a cover up?
What is a cover up? It's when Jeanette is not feeling super svelte on the beach, and then she does the cover up.
Yeah.
So it's Jeanette's COVID-19 cover up. Now, in the Indian Prairie 204 school district has been accused, and there's now a lawsuit filed that the school board violated both the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act while they were planning their reopening. So according to the lawsuit, now this is according to the lawsuit and doesn't mean that any of this is true or happened, this is what is being alleged in the lawsuit.
Right.
Is that the folks who are suing, the parents who are suing, are saying that the school board had all of its discussions about whether to reopen and when to reopen and how to reopen in closed session. So the Open Meetings Act is a law that the state of Illinois has that requires that all public bodies have their meetings out in the open.
Right.
And they are allowed to have closed sessions for some very specific reasons. So, for example, if they are hiring or firing somebody, if they are in the middle of pending lawsuits, or if they're in the middle of like a real estate negotiation or something like that, and talking about it in the public might end up costing them a lot of money or give away like trade secrets or something, there are many legitimate reasons to have a closed session.
Right.
Talking about something like reopening that might make you really unpopular is not one of them.
Right.
You have to talk. Just because it will make you unpopular doesn't mean that you can just go into a closed session and boot out the reporters and the members of the public and talk
that's
amongst
not cool.
yourselves. Now that's what the lawsuit is alleging, is that they, before every meeting, they were having the school board was having these closed sessions, and the parents bringing the lawsuit think that they were talking about reopening plans.
Right.
Now, their evidence for that is, well, they didn't seem to discuss the reopening plans very much out in the public. They just voted on them. That's kind of
misleading.
Well, it's a little malarkey, because a lot of the time a public board won't discuss things very in depth in person. Sometimes that's because, the superintendent in this case might have emailed the board, which is allowed, and say, hey, here's the reopening plan, here's our reasoning, and then all the members of the board might just have their opinions and vote. Yeah, they might trust the superintendent and say, okay, cool, sounds good to us, good plan, So that might be one reason they don't have a lot of discussion about it. Now, why were they going into these closed sessions? It could be for any number of those other reasons, right? They could have been hiring or firing. They could have been talking about security, right? So if you're talking about, here's all the ways that we're implementing school security so that if someone tries to come and shoot up a school, God forbid, here's all the security plans in place. They do that in private so that, someone doesn't just have access to all of the plans for the schools, and how to get around all those security measures. Lots of legitimate reasons that school boards can be in closed sessions.
Right.
But that's the first part of this lawsuit, is that maybe they were talking about reopening plans, and there's an election coming up, and they just didn't want to be unpopular, so they talked about it in closed doors. Maybe.
Could be anything.
Maybe. I don't know. They could be talking about anything. We don't know until afterwards, when the minutes get released after whatever the decision has been made. Those minutes get released of those meetings much further down the line.
Right.
The second part of this lawsuit is that they are alleging a Freedom of Information Act violation.
Better known as FOIA.
FOIA. So FOIA allows you to look, as a resident, a member of the public, to request any documents that you want that exist relative to any public body, with some exceptions. And so parents requested all of the emails talking about, between, the school board and superintendent, the administration, talking about reopening plans. And the school district repeatedly said, no, you can't have those, not because we're hiding anything from you, but because that is an insane amount of emails for us to dig up in a 5 to 10 day time frame like the law provides. And they're right, probably. There were probably like thousands and thousands of emails about reopening.
Hell yeah.
So that's called an unduly burdensome request, and it can be rejected. It's then when if you request those records and you get rejected because it's unduly burdensome, your recourse, you can do two things. You can either give them another request that's more specific, right? And that reduces the number of emails and documents, and then they can be forced to reply to it. or you can file a complaint with the state of Illinois, the Attorney General's Public Access Coordinator, and they can force the public body to go ahead and release those records, even if it does take them an awful lot of time. As someone who has worked in government and seen how long it can take to pull together basic FOIA request information, it's like so much work. Some agencies have one person who all they do is dig up FOIA request information. So yeah, it's a really, as our producer points out, it's a really boring job.
Right.
And they get, some agencies will get tons and tons of these requests every week, hundreds of these requests like a month. It's so much work.
Shout out to BTP. That's BT Pizzle. He is our producer. That's who that is. Chestnut Amy, what up? Real estate guy Simon, what up? 23EENER 23. 23er? That's like a screen name. I don't know. I hope I said it right. Good morning to you as well. Ben left a comment. Someone go carry out some McCarty's for this one.
Oh man,
I don't even think they're open this early.
I don't.
Man, I wish they were.
Gosh, it's probably a good thing they're not.
They open at noon. Okay, word up.
All right, thank you, BT Pizzle.
I think Tap House opens at like 10.
There you go. Yeah, you'd hit the Tap House.
That's the old web.
That's former web. Yes,
the former web.
They have the crazy liquor license that lets them stay open all but a couple hours a day.
That place was when I used to live downtown. Mm-hmm. That place was 146% sketch. It was I
down from 172% sketch.
I remember
initially.
I remember thinking to myself like, yikes. Like that place is sketchy.
I kind of love a good sketchy dive bar.
It's like Gary, Indiana sketchy.
Have you been to DeKing's?
Never heard of it.
Okay, so we're gonna deep dive into the history, friends. Giddy up. So
giddy up. Yeah.
So DeKing's.
We actually love Tap House. No hard feelings.
We actually do.
No, shout out. It's a shout.
Yes. So to be clear, it was 140-something% sketch. They have since rebranded, cleaned up, and now it's like the same amount of sketch as anywhere else.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yes.
Great place.
I have drunk there, gotten a little toasty there several times. A little toasty. I like the pizza too.
The pizza's good.
The pizza's good. The pizza is for bar pizza is
Hell yeah.
astoundingly good. Anyway, DeKing's. So when you're driving down 25, if you're headed north, right, from downtown on 25, it's going to be on your right-hand side, a little bit north of Illinois Avenue. And it's this house bar. It's a bar that looks like it's in an old house that just has one of those like really old school, like old style beer signs out front.
Right.
And you don't know the name of the bar from the outside. The name of the bar is called DeKing's. It has many dead animals mounted to the walls and is a delightful place to go get a very cheap beer if you're not a member of one of the social clubs, right? It's like one of those places where you go get like yourself a really cheap domestic draft and enjoy the ambiance.
The $2 holla.
I've never heard it called that, but I love that. So it's called DeKing's because Aurora, Illinois, was the site of a massive incident in the fight against prohibition. So you'll all recall that at one point in the early 19th or the early 20th century, that America went crazy and decided to outlaw all alcohol. That's largely because of the growing movement.
Temperance.
Yes, the growing temperance movement that was largely led by women who were getting beaten by their alcoholic husbands,
yes.
Which you can't really blame them, but also we changed the entire Constitution instead of just like maybe putting some more reasonable restraints around alcohol consumption. Anyway,
right.
So prohibition was the law back in the day, and people would make alcohol anyway because, come on now. And so
right.
There was a family, the DeKing family, who got raided by some dry raiders. Dry raiders were basically like vigilantes who roamed the countryside or their communities, and would bust down the doors when they heard that someone had booze, and toss the and arrest them and charge them with violations of new prohibition laws. So they did that to this family, and it was a wife and husband and their son. And in the process of the raid, they shot the mom and killed her. Yeah, because they had some jugs of wine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it wasn't even like they were running this whole massive operation. They weren't who were the gangbangers or the gangsters who ran all the
bootleggers.
Yeah, but who's the big one? Capone. It wasn't they weren't busting down Capone's door or something like that. This was literally we had some jugs of wine in the back for fancy dinners, and they shot this mom and killed her, and it became national headlines, and it was dry raiders kill a mother or whatever. Yes, and it sort of became the beginning of the end of prohibition. So it kind of drove the nail in the coffin of maybe we've gone a little overboard with the not letting people have any alcohol whatsoever. So then eventually prohibition got repealed, and partially that's because mom got shot for having some wine, or mommy wine stash here in Aurora. The DeKing family, now there's a bar named DeKing's. Go drink there if you...
Where's it at?
It's on Route 25.
Okay.
In a super sketch-looking just house bar.
That White House?
Yes.
On the side of the road?
Yeah, with the gravel lot.
Heard bad things about that place.
Oh yeah, it's local color. I haven't.
That's what I was told. Yeah. I was told if you're not the local color, you shouldn't go in there.
That could be.
There's also a couple of alcoholic police officers that I heard who have since retired. One of which harassed your boy. But that's another podcast episode.
That is a podcast.
That's
for
another
day.
That's a
so
whole
you see,
podcast.
And that is the experience. I am incredibly pasty, as we have covered before on this show, and so sometimes you walk in different worlds and places where one of us gets harassed, the other one doesn't, and vice versa. And
I was accosted for guess what?
Were you moving furtively?
I was jaywalking.
Oh, you got to be really careful about moving furtively, too. Don't.
That's the word of the day, furtive.
Furtively. Can it be just an adjective? I think it can only be an adverb.
Well, our friend of the show, Tracy Duran, sent us an article about the DeKings regarding the shooting.
Thank you, Tracy.
How morbid for
an early
morning show.
Yeah, it's but kind of a weird deep dig into Aurora history.
Yeah, nice.
All
right. So next topic. Now we still
have more.
We got a couple more. Our BTP has a job, and he has to work and shit. So
sad.
I think that what we'll do to end,
which by the way, we have a donate button on the Good Morning Aurora website. So if you want us to be able to all give up our day jobs so we can just keep doing this for you constantly, you just hit that donate.
You can support
button.
the podcast on Anchor as well with $5. It goes a long way, or Patreon.
Yeah.
There's a job fair happening at Waubonsee Community College. It's April 9th. And it's via the Handshake app. This is really great. It's brought to us by Waubonsee Community College in partnership with IDES, Illinois Department of Employment Security. If you are looking for a career change or for a brand new career, you can definitely holla, and it's April 9th. We've posted this on our Facebook and Instagram before. I will make sure to repost this for you guys so you guys can check this out. And here comes that link not right now, in about 84 seconds.
84 seconds. Also, happening around town, we've got road work coming to Route 31. That starts April 1st.
Yes.
I'm actually really excited for this. I love a good road work project. I'm the only person in the history of ever to say that. But, man, Route 31 is tore up. So they're going to be resurfacing it and making the sidewalks ADA compliant, which is great because if you've ever driven Route 31, the construction is going from Rathbone all the way up to the tollway. And if you ever have driven, there is a supportive living community along 31, and you'll see folks with their in their wheelchairs and scooters like that, just getting some fresh air and like running to the gas station and stuff like that, or wheeling to the gas station. And that's really hard to do if you don't have ADA compliant sidewalks. So it's really great to see some investment in infrastructure, in slightly nicer roads, and in sidewalks that work for everybody in our community.
And if you are going to Art and Market Aurora, which you should be.
This Saturday
at Society 57, 100 South River Street.
River and Benton.
River and Benton.
By the library. Get some coffee. Say hi to all my favorite baristas.
Say hi to all Jeanette's favorite baristas. If you go and mention Good Morning Aurora at Art and Market's welcome table, you get a free tote.
Ooh.
Oh man. Snap.
Free tote.
What?
And then you can buy things at the Art and Market. Guys, Dick's Mini Donuts is there.
Word up.
So if you've been missing your donut fix because it's not farmer's market season, you can go get yourself some mini donuts. And then they got a florist there, and it's really pretty. And then a whole bunch of different, so you can get fresh meats that's from not tortured animals, which is I'm always a fan of.
Of course.
Yeah, there's all sorts of great stuff there. So go check it out.
Go check out Art Market Aurora. Mention Good Morning Aurora at the welcome table and get a free tote.
I also recommend while you're there at Society 57, have some coffee. The pour-overs are great. And if you are thinking mini donuts might be too much sugar that time in the morning, they have a breakfast sandwich at the cafe that is just we call it a crack sandwich at our house. It's so good.
Damn, it will make you into an immediate junkie.
Yes.
The time is now 9:36 a.m. You were listening to you're listening to Jenettesplaining
on Good Morning Aurora.
On Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast, aka GAMS, the Great American Morning Show.
Oh goodness.
Now, one more thing before we get out of here. I have to tell you about this. Well, Ben, you got me with Dick's Donuts. Great stuff.
So good. Yeah, go this weekend.
Great stuff.
Saturday at the Art and Market.
Support local, shop local, do local with all that you do. There's a lot of great stuff going on. AuroraDowntown.org /calendar, or the calendar is accessible on their homepage. Check out what's going on here locally in our great city. We got a lot of stuff happening. First Fridays is coming up, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on, but there is a contest that we have been running since Tuesday and has not yet been filled. What?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. What was in the building that now houses Banana Split before it was Banana Split?
Oh.
If you can tell us what was in that building before it was Banana Split, you win a t-shirt.
You get a prize.
And you will come on and do the morning news.
Oh, you get to do the morning news?
You get to do the morning news with your boy. If it's a Friday, you get to do the morning news with Jenettesplaining. Maybe come on the show. I don't know. With the whole team. But yeah. What was in the building that now houses Banana Split before it was Banana Split?
So you have options, I feel like, to figure this out.
You can send us your answers to goodmorningaurora@gmail.com. And yes, drink local.
Go do some sleuthing.
Go do some sleuthing. Do some research.
Go get yourself some Banana Split if that is part of the research. They are open, I believe. Yes,
they are, yep.
They've been open a while now, so it's still a little chilly, but whatever.
Yep.
Go get it.
Yep, and
it's
then
delicious.
Last things last. Monday is a very important day. There's the community Stronger Together Community Blood Drive taking place at 1 East Benton, lower level, Gallery 1904, and that's going to be from noon to 5 p.m. And that's brought to us by our wonderful state representatives of the 50th District, Keith Wheeler, 84th District, Stephanie Kiffelwit, and 83rd District, Barbara Hernandez. Also brought to us by the Duquesne Abate Motorcycle Group, who we interviewed, Mr. Chris Hansen. It was a great interview. Also on that particular day, there is Neighbor Vax Aurora happening at East Aurora High School. That's going to be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our state legislators, who I just named, our state representatives, going to be there, as well as Linda Holmes, state senator, and Senator Karina Villa. So it's going to be at East Aurora High School, 500 Tomcat Lane.
Fabulous. And I think, next weekend next Friday, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to convince your friends and neighbors and family, who you're about to see over Easter, if they're a little hesitant on the vaccine. We're gonna talk to you about some research-backed ways to convince people. If they're just a little like, I don't know.
For those of you who tuned in to our Wednesday show, we had Noelia Ruiz from the Wabanzi SBDC, Latina. And one of the things that we waxed over and understood was that for people of color, for Black people and Latino people, we are people who were raised primarily by grandparents. Like in my own life, my grandmother gave me the blueprint of life, and I got all of my teachings from her. And grandparents in our communities are sometimes very superstitious people. If Big Mama, if Auntie is not taking, if Abuelita is not going to get the vaccine, that is going to filter down through the rest of the family. It's hard to break those. It's hard to break some of those ethnic traditions.
There's that. There's also the matter of access too, right?
Exactly.
Like some people are ready to go but haven't been able to get appointments. So we're going to talk about how to help people
Jenettesplaining part
get their appointments, how to convince them to go.
Right.
It's going to be great. So check in for that next week.
All right. So this was a good one. This was a good one.
Clink.
Shouts out to BTP, BT Pizzle in the house too. Mr. Dick Shindell is an Aurora we all look up to. Shouts out to Mr. Shindell. Haven't met the man yet, but he was recently in an article. I saw an article with Mr. Dick. And is he the gentleman of ARTA, AARTA, the Aurora Area Retired Teachers Association? Is that the Dick Shindell that you people speak of? If it is, good morning to Mr. Dick Shindell. The time is now 9:41 a.m. and you've been listening to Jenettesplaining on Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast, aka GAMS, G-A-M-S, the Great American Morning Show. We hope that you all have a blessed, positive, wonderful, productive, helpful, empathetic, and dedicated Friday. See you back here Monday morning for more great news, awesome stuff, and a little bit of positive vibes for your beautiful